you feel confident, feel good about yourself, making the most of your, natural features. So we'd look at things like colour and style. Colour is a great way to start. So I would talk to people about having colour analysis, and that's a process where we look at your natural hair colouring, skin tone and eyes, and through a process of elimination determine what colours suit you best.
Wow, I like that.
So it's a bit like going to the hairdressers.
Yeah.
No makeup, ladies, so be forewarned. A bit scary, that thought.
Yeah.
You wear like a cape.
Yeah.
If you've got colour in your hair, you wear a turban. So we're eliminating certain things to start with, and we build that up. So we have the swatches, work through that, and it's not just a case at the end of that saying, these are the colours that suit you, avoid these ones. But actually looking at that, saying, OK, how do you feel about these colours? All colours have positive and negative impacts and emotions. They trigger feelings inside. Different people respond to those colours in different ways. So we talk about that. And how practical is that? How does that work with your current wardrobe, with your lifestyle, with your job? Looking at things like, how colour is seen. So your eye will always be drawn to the lightest colour first. So if it's a bit of your body you at least like, that's why you need to clothe it in a darker colour.
Wow, okay.
So if you've got the bit you like in a lighter colour, and it's building up all things like that around what your body shape is.
How interesting.
Working from there. But, we're all unique. So even if you think you may be, for example, a pear shape, it's what about your other features? How good are your legs? You mentioned, Teresa, your arms earlier. And there's something you're comfortable about exposing. It's how it can all work and be brought together that we would look at.
Okay, right. And so what difference do you think using a style advisor makes to someone's life? I should think it transforms them.
It can make a big difference.
Yeah.
It does many things. It can certainly save you time and money and stress, I would say. But the biggest thing is to make you feel more confident about yourself, to feel more positive. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, you smile and you feel good. And have that warm inner feeling, as opposed to that self-doubt. If you were going out in the evening, if you had, for example, a date, it's that, indecision, what shall I wear, what's appropriate, what do I look okay in? And, there's so many thoughts that go through your head at that time.
That was really good what Leslie said there, and you can actually listen to that programme again if you go onto the Seclo Sounds website, because obviously that was just a little clip, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an insight of what she does. Another one of the programmes, we spoke about infidelity, and we had two wonderful guests that spoke about their experiences. The first one was Ian. I don't know if you listened to that show, but he gave you a very frank insight really onto how he found out that his wife was having an affair and the after effects of that involving his son. And then we spoke to Kim, that also gave her insight on when she found out her husband was having an affair and the problems that she suffered with depression and the fact that she wanted him to come back at some point, and then she realised that obviously that the guilt and everything that he had and the lack of trust that she had, that the marriage wasn't going to work out. So if any of you at home are facing infidelity and going through a rough time, obviously Single in the City, we try to encompass everything that involves being single, and so you can listen again to those programmes. Oh, I'm just going to say now, we've had a technical issue where the microphones weren't working, but they are now. So hopefully we can get cracking a little bit better. George, can you just turn them down a little bit, darling? Thank you. Right, okay, so we're back on track now. So we spoke about the importance of getting some legal advice. And one of the shows, I spoke to Caroline Watson from Slater and Gordon. George, are we going to play that, darling, the interview? Should we play that now? So we're just going to give you a little clip of that interview with Caroline now.
So my top tips on what to do if you're faced with an unfortunate marriage breakdown. First of all, I would always advise someone to take advice from a specialist family law solicitor. Getting advice early on, you'll get the advice on what you can and can't do, and it will be the advice that hopefully means that it will take away a lot of your stress and anxiety, because actually knowing where you stand and what you can do it certainly helps you to move forward and make right decisions.
Yeah, it's very important to get the right lawyer, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's important to get someone that you feel you can be open and honest with and confident in, because they are going to represent you, and therefore you need to feel confident in their abilities.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it also can make sure that you avoid making costly mistakes. Doing something quickly or without advice can come back to haunt you. So getting advice early on is key. Next top tip is to separate your finances. This means looking at bank accounts, working out budgets of your monthly expenditure, and trying to agree with your spouse what the arrangements are going to be. So working out a budget is looking at what your expenditure is going to be on a monthly basis, and then having a discussion with your spouse looking at what your income is to see how you're going to manage on what we call an interim basis, which is following your initial separation until you actually finally divorce and you perhaps actually move into different accommodation, etc.
What if you're in a situation, Caroline, where you've separated and you're not communicating particularly well? How do you have that financial talk if they don't want to talk to you about it?
If they don't want to talk to you about it, then then you're a little bit stuck. But that's where a solicitor can become invaluable, because they are the means of helping you communicate. But it's not just solicitors that can help. There are a number of organisations now. There's mediation available to people. So that's going to see someone who is an independent person who is there to help the couple. They're not there to give them individual advice. They're there to try and assist them to have communication with one another.
To see if they can come to some sort of agreement.
Yes.
And is that legal? You know, once they've agreed that, is that a legal
Well, anything
document?
they actually discuss together in mediation is what's called without prejudice, which means that they can have full and frank discussions, and at the end of a session a mediator will then advise them to go back to see their solicitors to get advice on what they've potentially agreed. So they're not going to be bound by what they've discussed in mediation until they've actually been back to solicitors, and then they enter into a formal document setting out their agreements.
And do a lot of people use mediation these days?
Since April of this year, the government introduced obligatory mediation for people before they can issue court applications. So, unless there's certain reasons, for example, domestic violence, then people are required to actually attend mediation.
Okay.
But the mediation is just one option. So I'm keen to stress it's not the only option to people, but there are other options as well.
Okay.
Next on my tip list is to communicate with one another, particularly if there's children involved. It's not just the couple. There are obviously the feelings of their children as well. And research shows that children are more likely to adapt to life after divorce if their parents are communicating and showing that they're united in their parenting still. So it's not always easy to do that. But my tip to people who find it perhaps difficult to communicate at home is to perhaps suggest going out for a coffee in a neutral venue where they both feel that they feel comfortable, and also perhaps somewhere where discussions get heated. They feel that they're safe and
absolutely, because sometimes your emotions can sort of take over, can't they? So if you're in a neutral place, you're not going to scream and shout, "Are you in a coffee bar?" Well, some people might.
But
also maybe do you advise people to take a friend along or someone that's sort of sit on the periphery and?
Not usually. It depends again on the individual, because sometimes friends or a family member can actually make it worse, and they can have their own opinions, and before you know it, they're perhaps getting involved in the discussion. So normally we'd perhaps just suggest it's the two parents that meet with one another.
Okay.
But again, if people feel they need that added support, they can look to mediation, and there's also what's called collaborative law. Now, I'm a trained collaborative lawyer, and what that involves is actually inviting the couple to meet with one another, but they both have their legal representative with them as well.
Right.
So it gives them the security of having legal advice, but collaborative is very much about the couple determining the pace at which they go at what they discuss. So they set the agenda, but they have the benefit of a lawyer in the room with them.
Okay, that must make them feel better as well, mustn't it?
Hopefully.
Yeah. It is, yeah. And Right, so the legal costs. What about the legal costs?
Well, the legal costs we offer at Slater and Gordon fixed fees. So we can offer people fixed fees. We also charge by the hour. So we do sort of offer something for everyone's sort of financial situation.
So you've got a variety of ways that people choose to pay.
Yeah, I mean, I think what our responsibility is to set out to people the options, and they do have different cost consequences. But it depends on what the person feels is right for them. As far as divorces go, we offer lawyer-assisted services, so we offer a service that means we assist them throughout the process. But that's cheaper than if we do a fully supported service. So we are sort of looking at ways of trying to give people that sort of support.
Because it can be expensive, affordable. But it doesn't have to be, does it?
I think if people take advice early on and do follow advice, then they shouldn't be spending huge amounts on legal fees. But in some cases, again, our responsibility is to make sure what people are doing is cost proportionate.
Yeah.
So clearly, if you're arguing over 100,000 and you're going to spend 5,000 to hopefully get closer to 100,000, it's cost proportionate.
Yeah.
If people are arguing over 5,000, then it's ridiculous to be spending 4,500 on lawyers to do it. So certainly we take our responsibility seriously at making sure that it's cost proportionate.
That's really good. And you say get the benefits you are entitled to. That's really important.
Yeah, I think we find quite often people come and see us and they just have no idea about what they may be entitled to. So if you've been a couple together, you perhaps haven't been claiming child benefit because as a pooling your income, it's not. You've decided for the tax reasons it's not sensible to do it. Also, tax credits. Again, as a married couple, you may not have been eligible. As soon as you decide there's a separation, then you may become eligible. And I think, again, what's key is that people don't realise that you don't have to be physically separated to start making claims for benefits. The fact that you are separated...
Do you not?
No.
So you could be living in the same house?
But what you need to be is separated.
Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, financially separating yourselves. But obviously, in a lot of cases, it's not always possible for people to physically be separated.
I know of quite a few people that are still living together and through circumstances, but separated. Yeah. So okay, that's really good. And you've got here seek counselling.
Yeah, I think it certainly is something that anyone going through a difficult time should consider.
Yeah.
People sometimes say to us, "Oh, but is it really going to help?" And I think anything is going to help someone if they're able to talk to an expert in that particular field. So we definitely would promote people going to see a counsellor. And I think again our responsibility doesn't we're there to give the legal advice, but we're very much looking at trying to provide a full service. So we're very keen on bringing counsellors into our offices if necessary to meet the client, just to give them an initial 10-minute discussion and to explain what they can do for them and how they can help them.
And if they need that service, they can use it, can't they?
Yeah, it's about just letting them know that there are options.
I think with the English people, certainly, I think they have a way of looking at counselling as if it's a stigma.
Yeah.
Whereas the Americans do it all the time, don't they?
Yeah.
And I hope that we can sort of bring that back in here, that people don't have to be afraid of counselling because it's a way of ventilating and a way of moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that's fantastic that you as a practice preach that and educate people that they should do it. I think that's brilliant. And your next one is obtain valuations.
Yes. What we advise people to do early on is actually value what we call in the matrimonial pot. So we're getting valuations for people's pensions, we're getting valuations for houses, getting valuations for any capital that may be available. And we say get it early on simply because pension companies can by law take up to 3 months to produce the valuations. So we would urge people to get their valuations early on for 2 reasons. One, you don't necessarily want to have to wait 3 months before you can move forward with a financial settlement.
No, it's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, and secondly, in some cases, not all, but in some cases we can put forward a case that it should be the value at date of separation that should be taken into consideration. And therefore, if people to spend quite a delay before getting valuations, then it's quite hard to work out what, for example, a house was worth 2 years ago.
Right.
Whereas if you get valuations early on, you know in 2012 it was worth X, and now we're in 2014 it's worth Y. Therefore, let's have a stab at trying to
I think it's very important to
get the benefit of the increased valuation. So getting valuations early on means that it's very clear what an asset is worth at data separation.
Okay. And what about people that are not really accepting that they're going through divorce?